Hello everyone, quick video here. Made two trades today, both pretty good trades. Started out trading Netflix this morning. Traded Netflix puts at 947. Take a look at the chart. I didn't do a video yesterday. I got a little bit busy. I went ahead and added a daily chart on here. I don't like how scrunched up it is though. I don't know if I'm going to leave it on there. I like seeing the data from it, seeing the chart, but this hourly chart looks really ugly when it's scrunched up like that. So I don't know. I'll see if I get used to it or not. But I entered it, was it 947, which was right at the close, right about the close of this candle. I liked how it came down. It broke through this support level here that I had marked. I got out way too early, obviously. I sold one at 948 and the second one at 951. So I was only in the trade just under 4 minutes total. So 948 and 951. So I got out of the first one right at the open of this candle, and I did that because we had yesterday's low, I believe it was. Yeah, yesterday's low was right here, so that's why I got out. Or was it yesterday's high? 348.50. Yeah, it was yesterday's low. So I sold the first one because we were getting real close to yesterday's low, and I was up 10% or so on that first bit. So I went ahead and locked that in. And the second one I sold at 951, which was right at the opening of this candle. I didn't like how it popped up for gap. We'll call it a gap up, but it's not really a gap up, but it gapped up from this close to the open of this candle. And because it was on yesterday's low and it kind of bounced up right there, I decided to go ahead and get out. Obviously, it would have been nice to have held a little bit longer, but it was nonetheless it was still a good trade. I still got, I don't know, 14%, something like that. My net was 268 sell minus 239 entry, 12.1%. So, you know, you think of it, if you would have went in for $1,000, that's $120. But you know, I made what, 58 on it. I'm happy with that. My goal is to net $50 a day. I don't want to get greedy. I mean, you know, I'm not trading out of a super huge account. I don't want to trade out of a large account. It's nice to have a large account, but I found when I do have a larger account, I trade a little bit sloppier. I go in a little bit heavier than I probably should, just because I know that the money's there. You know, I have traded out of larger accounts before, and I got a little bit sloppier with it. I like trading out of a little bit smaller account because I'm a little bit more disciplined and a little bit more strict with my rules. So I seem to trade a little bit better with a smaller account. So, you know, I don't. I guess that's one of the drawbacks of having a large account, at least for me. I mean, I'm not. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm disciplined enough now, but when I had a larger account before, I wasn't disciplined enough. So I, you know, just trading out of a smaller account, taking smaller wins, and I'm good with that. So these were actually both these trades were actually alerted in the chat room that I'm in, but actually they weren't alerted. They were put on watch. They were put on watch. I entered them. They were alerted shortly after I entered them. I think Netflix was alerted like 7 or 8 minutes after I got in. In fact, I think I was already out of it when they alerted the entry. Apple, I think I got in about 5 or 10 minutes before they alerted it. They mentioned it to watch it, which is why I was watching it. And I got in about 5 or 10 minutes before they actually alerted that they were getting in it. And I think I was probably already out by then because I was only in it for 6 minutes or 9 minutes. So let's take a look at Apple. Let's go back and take a look at Netflix while we have it up. We see a pivot point here. You see it came down and it stopped right at that pivot point. It ended up breaking below it, but this particular candle stopped, hesitated for a second. You see this pivot point here, it held the whole day. Not the whole day, but for this period here it held. Didn't drop below it. Go back and let's see. Let's take a look at some of my support resistance that I had up. This is a line here that I drew for support and resistance. This was actually a pre-market high. That's why I put that line in there. And you see it pretty much held that. Never broke above it the whole day. Well, I shouldn't say never broke. It broke above it here, but it didn't hold it. We have a bearish engulfing candle here. This would have been an excellent entry. I didn't catch it at that point. I didn't see it. But would have made it for a real nice entry. We have the VWAP here. You see it held VWAP across here. Sort of held it here. We closed above it here, but didn't hold it. Closed above it here, but didn't hold it. Closed above it a few times. I had a support line here, basically at 349. It only crossed it once right here. It did hold here as resistance when it popped back up. Hard to say if it was the 349 that held or if it was the 6 EMA that held, but either way it held at that level. So that's pretty much it for the Netflix chart. Apple, let's take a look at my entry here. Check the daily, hourly, and 15-minute. So I got in Apple at 1027, paid $1.02. This was only about a 9% win or so. I think I actually got out. I could have made a little bit more on it, but I got out. I made a good decision getting out because it came bouncing back pretty good after that. So I got in at 1027, which was right after the close of this candle, right at the open of this candle here is when I got in. I got in because we had a bearish engulfing candle here that closed below yesterday's close. I got in here. I think it was alerted about here. I don't know exactly when it was alerted. I could go back and look. In fact, I will go back and look. It was alerted at 10:27. That's what time it was typed into the chat room. I got in at 10:27:01, so I actually got in maybe just a minute before they did. Well, they probably got in a minute before me, but by the time they typed it in, I got in at 10:27:01, and it's just listed as 10:27, so I don't know the exact time, but I got in pretty much the same time they did. which was right at the beginning of this candle. Like I said, bearish engulfing, the close below yesterday's close. That was what I based my entry on. I got out at 10:30 and 10:36. So I got out at right at the beginning of this candle, and then right at the open of this candle I got out of the second batch of it. So I got out of this at just the right time. I'm glad I did, but my goal was I didn't want to let this go red on me because I already had one nice win. I didn't want to give it back, so I only made 9% or so on it, but it's $18 I didn't have. I woke up this morning, so that's how I look at it. You know, if I make $5 on a trade, I'm happy. Obviously, I'd rather make more, but that's the only trades I made today. Let's take a look at a couple other charts here. Well, let's take a look at Apple and see how the support resistance worked out. We had a pivot point here. This was the open. Today's open was the yellow line. I had in these support resistance lines I put in. I didn't copy these from the chat room like I had been doing. I found out it's actually faster if I do it myself. So this was yesterday. There's a pivot point here also at yesterday's close. I have a resistance line here that I put in, plus there's also a pivot point right above that, as well as yesterday's, I believe yesterday's high, 196. Yeah, yesterday's high. So, which is why I put that line there. Why I put that resistance line. So we have yesterday's high plus a pivot point. We bounced right off of that. Right here we have VWAP, and this is the reverse engineering RSI. Bounced off of it here. Kind of consolidated here. Bounced off the 200 SMA right there. Bounced off of this support line I put in here. So pretty boring day for Apple, other than the open right here. Other than this open, it was a pretty boring day for Apple. Alibaba, I really didn't look at any other charts because I made these two trades and I kind of shut everything down. Not literally shut everything down, but I just didn't look at it again. I put a resistance line in here. We went right to it. I don't know what that 161.72. I don't know what that indicated, where I got that from. But I got it from somewhere, and it worked. It held. So I have the resistance line I put there. That held. We have a pivot point. You can see this candle came up right to that pivot point. Ended up breaking through it, but you see this pivot did have some impact right here. Same with this candle. It came down and closed right at it. I put a support line in here. You see it came down and tested that support line a few times today. Then it kind of consolidated. Really, it looks like, you know, if you didn't make any trades, you know, pretty much 11 o'clock this morning trading was pretty much done. It was pretty ugly, pretty choppy after that. I mean, if you played these just right, this might not have been bad. You had a bullish engulfing that closed above a pivot. This might not have been too bad of an entry here, but bounced right off the pivot here. If this would have been a bullish engulfing, it might not have been a bad entry, but it's not. It's just a candle. No significance. Bounced right off of the support line I put in here. Yeah, it was actually a pretty ugly day after, you know, after about 11 o'clock. It's pretty choppy and ugly. Take a look at NVIDIA. We had a pivot point and yesterday's high. Came right up to that. Came down. I had support lines I put in here. They didn't really have much effect, at least up to here. Maybe later it did. I don't know. Nah, not much effect. We actually had a gap here. If you looked on the daily chart, there was a gap that usually offers support or resistance in that gap. But you have to go by the close of the candle, not by a midday candle, not by a tail or a wick. So if we close below this, then that gap is filled, which we did. We did close below, so that gap is filled now. If this would have popped back up and closed above this line, that gap is still valid. So, yeah, we kind of same thing here, just kind of a lot of consolidation, not really any real direction. You know, we had, these would have been good plays, nice plays, but we don't. Now this here would have been good because we came right up to the bottom of that gap, which this level would still offer resistance, which it did here. Let's take a look at Roku. Roku looked like it might have been a little bit better. If you would have got in here, you could have. It kind of churned higher, chugged higher all day. So that one might not have been quite as bad. You see my resistance, support resistance lines I put in here. You know, we came in and opened here. A lot of congestion right here, but it kind of shot straight up, blasted right through everything. Came right up to this resistance line that I put in, which I don't know where that came from, where I got it from, but it came right to that resistance line and stopped. I showed you the other day how I do my support and resistance lines. I start with the daily chart, then I go to the hourly, then the 15-minute, and the 5-minute. And then right before the market opens, I'll put the pre-market highs and lows in. And I just look for, you know, let's take a look at the hourly chart. Just quick glance here. I just look at the hourly chart. Like, we had a high right here with a lot of consolidation in this area. This one here, this must have been taken probably from the daily chart. That upper one, let me take a look at the daily. Let's see where I got that upper one from. It was actually the highs. That's actually today's highs. Yeah, I may have put that in after the fact to note the high. That may have been where that came from, because that's the only place that was up that high. So I must have put this in after the fact during the day. So which would explain why it's exactly right on it. But yeah, we had this support level here that I put in there, resistance support line. Came down and tested it right here and bounced off of it. You know, not much to say here. Big spike up, pull back, and then kind of grinded higher all day. SPY, let's take a look at SPY. Trying to keep this video short, so I'm kind of jumping through here. We had a gap to fill on SPY also. There was a gap to the, I believe a gap to the upside and a gap to the downside. So yeah, we see kind of the same thing. It's real choppy. So that's it for today. You know, any questions, comments, whatever, take a look, watch the video, post them. I'll try my best to answer them or make another video explaining it or whatever. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later. Thanks, bye.